Are you running a small online store? Let's stop guessing your stock levels. Head to make.com. Create your data store. Think of it as a mini database inside Make. Add your stock items, t-shirts, hoodies, and sneakers. Automate your workflow that checks your stock every day and send timely alerts. Let's do smart automation in few easy steps. Follow along. Sarah runs an online store and she wants to store her stock data in Make. She sells 4 clothing items with different variants. She wants to track her inventory and want to be alerted once a day if when stock drops below a certain value. If the total quantity of a product drops below 50 or if an individual quantity of a product drops below 5. We'll start with first creating a data store and data structures. And after that, we are going to inject our data using parse JSON module. And then in the end, we are also going to create a few scenarios. So let's get started. Head to Data Stores on the left panel. Click on Add Data Store at the top. And click on Add Data Store. I'll just give it a name such as Inventory Data Store. So what is a data store? Look, it's a built-in database that Make has and that allows you to easily store and retrieve data. Now what we are doing now is we are creating a data structure here. And you can think of it like a blueprint that describes the structure of the data transferred within Make. So it specifies which data types are present and how they are organized. All those who have knowledge about databases, I think they'll pick that up easily. So what are we going to do now? We're just going to add the fields for this data structure. And as you know that this is basically a clothing store. So therefore we will have fields like name, description, type, unit, variant. So we'll just do one by one each one of them. So the first one we've done was ID. It's a text field. Then we'll just go to name, description. So I'm just going to type that in right now. So that's my next column. This is the information that I want to store, right? Then we have description of that particular item, clothing item. Then we have type, meaning is it a jacket or a hoodie or a t-shirt? What type? And then we'll define unit, which is what form of clothing type it is, meaning if it's socks, there are 2 units to it. Then variant. Now this is an interesting column in the data structure because its type is an array. All those who are familiar with arrays, so it can have multiple fields inside the array stored in, like in our case, we will have a collection of SKU, color, size, price, and quantity. So we've done that. Now let's look at how the data structure will look like. You can think of it like database columns, and as you can see it very clearly here. So we have the row headings and we have ID, name, description, type, unit, and variant as we had created. Now in order to test it out, let's try to add few rows using the column above where it says add. So I'm just going to add some sample data right now to show. So we'll just give some sample data. ID can be 1, name can be t-shirt. I'll just put some description in for the t-shirt. So type is clothes, because I do have a column, I do have a value for shoes as well. And so one piece of unit, that's just the type of the unit. And then variant, I'm just going to tell you in a bit, because I have not defined the array yet for the variant where there are multiple fields. So I'm just going to go back and do that, and we will fill the last column later. So So as you can see, when I clicked on variant, it is not showing me the individual values of each variant. So I'm just going to add in the data structure and then come back here and add it. All right. So I've just come back here to the data structures. I'm going to edit the last column called as variant. And because the type is array, it is allowing me to add fields underneath. So it will be a collection of fields, right? So it will have SKU, color, size, price, and quantity. All right, now that we have added, we're just going to go back into our data store. And now if you select, what's happening? Why isn't it showing? All right, so it has come up now because now we've already done it. I'm just going to add some sample data here. For each of the row item, it will have further details in the last column. So this is how you can actually add data manually. But for the purpose of this video, we will do this automatically through JSON. But right now, this was just to show you how to do it manually, and this is how the columns look like. I'm just going to delete these rows right now because we are going to do the other option now. You will notice that the key column has automatically been generated, and this is what we know, we call it primary key. Now let's move on to create our scenario. The first module we will add to be a data store. So select the function search records. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to search through the records in our data store. So we're not going to make any changes. You're just going to select the data store from the top drop down, and that's it. And then you go on to the next module. We will add the router, which will be split the flow in two directions. One checks the total quantity of the product, that example all t-shirts, and the other flow will check the individual quantity of the product, example blue t-shirts. I will edit the names of the branch so that it is self-explanatory. Now let's add the next module. So for the branch that is checking the total quantity, we will add a module iterator after I fix the filter. So I've done the filter now. Now I'm going to find a module called iterator. This will iterate through every variant of the product from the data store, and it will output 3 bundles out of each variant bundle. Okay. So I'm just going to select the variant here, which is the array. I will update the name of the module to make it more clear. So rename it. Next, we will add tools module, which is the function will be numeric aggregator, which uses the sum aggregate function to calculate the total quantity of the product. So they are pre-built in here. So just find that. So we are basically counting the total sum of the quantities of all our products. All right. Okay, so that's done. Now we'll add the next module, the tools module, and we will set a variable because the result that we will receive in the previous step, we want to store it in a variable. So variable is like just like a store, store variable. And we'll Yeah, just give it a name. So what we want is to store the total quantity number in this variable only if the total quantity is below 0. Okay. So I'm just going to write the full sentence, and I will pick the variable or the value from the data picker. Okay, slower than 50 actually. So what we are doing is total quantity number in this variable only if the total quantity is below 50. Okay, now in order to implement this criteria, we will add a filter to the branch and specify our criteria. So the filter here checks if the total quantity of the products is below 50. So this branch will only get activated if the total quantity of the product is below 50. All right, so that's done. Now we'll move on to the other branch. Add an iterator here, which will iterate through every variant of the product from the data store. So it will output 3 bundles out of each variant bundle. Okay, what will be the next? So next module is going to be tools module, set variable, which will check the quantity of each product, not the total, each product. If it's below 5, then it will create a warning message with the quantity number. So I'm just going to write, the message. Message here. So individual quantity for the product ID is equals to and we will select the variable that we had in the previous step. So after doing this, you can pause here and copy the exact text. So in order to implement this, we'll need to create a filter. And right now, so right click on it and on the branch and specify your criteria. So if the quantity of the product is below 5 per each variant, then we would like it to go ahead. Okay, it's done. Now let's add the last module, which is a mail module. It sends the email containing the warning message to the specified recipient. Now, this is a little bit of a tricky one. It took me a bit time to actually create the connection with Gmail. There's a separate video for that. I haven't created that, but you can definitely find one. So this might take a bit of time for you. So add Gmail connection. And if you would like me to make a video on that, just let me know. So once your connection is established, enter a subject. And if you recall, we still have to inject data into the database, right? Because right now we're just creating the workflow. So I'm just going to put down the message because this email will be automatically sent to the recipient mentioning the total quantity of individual item because we would like a new order to be placed with the supplier. Now we are going to go and inject the data in our database, which we haven't done that right now. So create a new scenario, name it inject data. I'm just making it simple. Add a JSON module called parse JSON. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste the content into the JSON string section. And so I've copied that from a separate document. If you like, you can pause it and you can look at it. It's a very normal structure. The way you pass JSON, you can even, ask AI to output that for you if you provide a list of it. Now we can see that when we run the module, the output is shown as a bundle, as it's shown here. Now what we need to do is we need to connect this to our data store. So we'll map the fields. So it hasn't been stored in the database yet. So what we've done is we've just passed it, create the bundles. Now we want to inject all this information, the data, all the rows about how many t-shirts, sizes, and everything we have into our database that we had created previously. So we'll connect this to our database next and we'll map the fields. Let's do that. So we've selected the data store from the top down, and we're just going to map the fields here. Yeah, for variant, toggle the map slider at the bottom and select only variant. It will automatically populate the relevant data. Now try running the scenario and check the output. Okay, so it does look like that it has created 4 different rows because you can see the bundles here. Okay. Now we're just going to quickly jump onto our data store and see if the rows have been populated. So it has been, as you can see, and each of the row has further details which are shown in variant. And as you know, what we've done is we've created that second module. So there are done 2 modules, as you can see. So 2 scenarios, one to inject data and the other one is the inventory alert. Now we'll create a webhook. We'll give a name to our webhook and just hit save. It will give you what the webhook will do is it will give you a URL for this webhook, which we'll need to add in our main scenario. So I'm just going to explain you a little bit later. Right now, just give it a name and hit save. I had created one before, so I'm just going to repeat the process. As you can see that it is giving me a URL. As you can see that I'm going to, in order to activate that URL, I need to click it on my email. But before that, what I'll do is I'll put the URL here on my Gmail message because I want the webhook link to be shown in my Gmail message. So let's run this whole scenario so that I can show you how the email will look like. So let me open that. The email, you can see there is a link here where it says, please click here. And when I click on that, it gives me a standard message as accepted. So let's recap the scenario that we have built. We started by searching a data store, right? That was our first step. Then we added a router, which was split into 2 branches. One branch checks the individual quantity of items and the other branch checks the total quantity of the product. And then we added an iterator to iterate through each variant to output 3 bundles. And what we did after that was we used a numeric aggregator and then applied the sum function to calculate the total quantity of the product. We used the filter function and set variable function to store the result of the total quantity if it is below 50. In the end, what we did was we wanted to send an email using a preferred email client, which in our case is Gmail. We did the filter. This I'm talking about the second branch. We did the tools, we did the set variable, and then we did the Gmail. So this is what we did in our first scenario. And then we also created a webhook. Now, let's quickly recap the webhook as well. And so as we know, it's a tool that is used by Make to automatically receive, update, or notifications when an event occurs in another application. So as you can see, Webhook provide a unique URL that you can call or make your request. So that's what it is. Now, if everything has been set up correctly, you should definitely get an email in your inbox with the messages once you run it, stating the number of the inventory. So we've created 3 scenarios. Let's go back into the inventory alert. Let's have a quick look on that. So when you receive the email in your inbox with the message stating the number of the inventory, your warning message should include sneakers SKU, because in the data we added here, there are 5 pairs of sneakers for that particular SKU. All right. Now we are in the final stages. What we'll do is we'll update the record in the data store based on the data from the webhook. That's why I'm going to go on to the next module. So based on the alert, when the stock variant is less than or equal to 5, an alert goes to the supplier, right? Now the goal of this one scenario is to update a record when a user clicks a webhook. Currently, when the webhook is clicked, it will give user a message accepted. Now after adding a data store in the next module, which searches and returns any record based on the ID provided in the webhook, we will now add an iterator which will split the records into separate bundles. Okay, so this is the ID that has come through the email, and this is what I have selected here because we want to update the record. Okay, so we will add the array aggregator. So if the SKU from the webhook matches the record, then 50 units are added to the current quantity. Okay, so that's what we are trying to do because the order placed with the supplier is for 50. So we need to update the record now. Okay, and if the variant doesn't match the quantity, it will remain in its current value. That means if there is a record which has a higher number, then it will remain as is. So that doesn't have to be updated. 50 doesn't have to be added to it. So what we will do is, so the single output array is then created, which is aggregated containing the updated record. Now we will do is, so this is basically the array aggregator. And I'm just going to add the criteria as well. Okay, the next one is we're going to add a data store with the new array. Right, so select your data store from there, and you're going to map the fields in each of these variant fields. So what it will do is this will update the record of the variant with the new value. Just select the key which had come through the webhook. I've gone back to the previous step because I had not mapped with the right field. Sometimes you have to go one or two steps further before you can see some of the fields visible in the data picker. Alright, so finally the webhook response will let the user know that record has been updated. So as I had updated the fields in the previous step, I will come back here and create the message, the criteria. You can pause here if you like and just copy the expression. Now what I'll do is I'll go back to my data store and see if the record has been updated with the new value. Okay. I'm just going to fix up a few things here and map the fields again. I will also show you the tutorial library from Make, from where I basically learned the process of updating your local data store. So you can definitely follow from there as well. So that's all done. The last one, like I said, we'll just add the webhook here so that the response will let the user know that record has been updated. So we're just kind of completing the loop. Right, so this scenario is completed now. We've closed the loop. We've updated the records with the new quantity. Let's look at the email. Click on the link so that webhook is basically activated or initiated. And what we'll do is we'll go back to the database and see if it has been updated. Sometimes what happens is we have multiple requests from Webhook, which I've created. It goes into the queue before it gets processed. So don't worry about that message that came earlier. So this is our data store. And I just want to go and look at the specific row where the quantity was 5. So if you can see, the quantity has been increased to 55. It was 5 previously, and so when the scenario was run, it checked the total quantity items, and that's how it got done. And that's how you can automate your inventory with Make. I'll be sharing more no-code tutorials and AI-powered workflows, so stay tuned, hit subscribe, and let's keep building smarter together.